In this next part in the series, True Friends, we're really taking a hard look at radical generosity and trying to get away from this mine mentality. So thanks so much, Engel. By the way, that story about Ananias and Sapphira is very disturbing.
It's pretty challenging.
Yeah.
I know why N.T. Wright said don't
No.
teach this, because it's just confusing. And
I think we've both heard this message preaches and like, hey, if you don't pony up at church,
you're gonna
God
die.
could just kill you.
He'll probably kill you.
Yeah.
Which is just such a bad...
It's a bad take.
Bad reading of the text.
You taught about how the Holy Spirit was driving this Christian community, this first early church, to be radically generous. Mm-hmm. Do you honestly believe that this level of generosity is achievable for us? Especially we have different faiths, beliefs, different spiritual beliefs in our communities. Like how do we ever get there?
Yeah, it seems daunting.
Right?
But I think if this is what Jesus moves us toward and compels us to live like, we can't use other people or the seemingly impossible task of living in a radically generous community. We can't use that as an excuse. Like, we need to be out in the forefront. We need to be early. It's crazy to think that we would be early adapters of this, or adopters. What's the word?
Yeah, adopters.
Yeah, we'll go with that one. Adapters and adopters. It's crazy, because this is a 2,000-year-old precept of Christianity, and so I hope and pray that that's what marks Cornerstone Fellowship.
Yeah. That
we would be people that folks know if there's a need that we meet it, and that's just the way we operate.
Yeah. Do no longer be conformed by the pattern of the world. Mm-hmm. And our world tells us, you've got your stuff and you hang on to it. There's so many people after your money. The IRS is after your money. Mm-hmm. The people who are lazy out there are after your money.
Church is after your money.
Church is after your money.
Yeah.
What if we stopped living like that? Like, it's like this zero-sum philosophy that it's if I don't have it, then they have it, or if they have it, I don't have it. It's really damaging, I think.
It's not even holding on to it. It's also like getting ahead. How do I get more than I had the day before? And that's just falling into that pattern of society is dangerous for followers of Jesus Christ, because that's when you start acting in a deceitful manner. That's when you start pushing other people down to push yourself up or prop yourself up. And that's scary to me that's such a big temptation. And I think that's why Luke makes it so clear, and so many of the authors throughout this collection of books makes so clear. Like the passage that I read from John, like that one, that's a tough passage to read. If you see someone in need and don't meet that need, how can the love of God be in you?
Whew. Oh my gosh. Well, you actually talked about Ananias and Sapphira, and about how authenticity and deceit, were really the things that Luke was describing there. And that fits so well also within our relationships. Mm-hmm. Like, are we going to be deceitful in our relationships, or are we going to be authentic? Mm-hmm. And do you think that that's part of the reason why you bring that into this series? Yeah,
I mean, I think we talked about it a couple times ago, the value of honesty within friendships. But I love how Luke ties generosity and authenticity together in this. It's like this idea of perceived righteousness versus obedience to God. It's like, don't put off this, which I think we all struggle with, is putting off this thing like, no, we've got it all together, and like I'm honoring God with everything that I do. And it's really easy to even deceive ourselves in that. And Luke makes it clear based on the story he records of what Peter said. It's like, you not only lied to human beings, you're lying to God. You lied to the Holy Spirit. Like, what's going on? Like, why would you do that? And so, yeah, it's true for our friendships, our relationships, but it's also true of our relationship with Jesus Christ and how the Holy Spirit works and moves in our lives is being our truest self everywhere we are. So, being true everywhere you are and with everything. You end the message by urging us to move from a mindset of ownership to one of stewardship. I like that. How do you suggest that people practically make that shift, especially those of us who are deeply ingrained in a culture that prioritizes individual ownership? Yeah. I have a friend who's pretty connected in the online community at Cornerstone, And he told me this one day about raising kids. He's like, your job is not, you don't own them. They're not your kids. You're just a steward of these kids. And that shift of mentality was huge for me in just the way I look at Jericho and Zacchaeus, and how I understand time differently in the way that, and I think that's the same thing that's true for our money and our resources, is if we look at the things that we have, or our possessions or whatever, if we look at what we have not as like a mind thing, but as like, this is this open-handed, if I take an open-handed approach to this and go, God, this is yours to do whatever you will with, all of a sudden, we don't concern ourselves as much with gains and losses, but as with like, what's the investment that I'm making in the people around me and what God's given me.
Boy.
So.
And we'll definitely become changed people. I think this could change our world. This could change your world. If you keep looking down those verses in 1 John, it says, let's no longer follow Jesus with just our words and our speech, but in actions and in deeds. And that's really difficult. It's really difficult to do that on your own if you're just walking there with your device in your hand, or you're sitting there on your own. I really want you to feel encouraged to connect with us online, to be in community, to talk about this stuff. We do that on Thursdays. We do that throughout the week on WhatsApp, and share how God is slowly changing our hearts and our minds and our thinking, and removing some of this brainwashing that we've just been exposed to just by living in the society that we live in. Let's instead become Jesus followers with everything that we have, everything that we own, everything that we do. I'm so glad you were here. I hope to see you next time.